The dust on Mars does not fall, it settles with an almost geological patience. Every grain is a fragment of rock ground down by frost, wind, and billions of years of the absence of water. Yet within that very dust, a Chinese rover read a different story, warmer, wetter, more Earth-like. Its name was Zhurong, like a god of fire, and in the silence of Utopia Planitia it did something that sounds paradoxical. It searched for water in the place that, at first glance, seems made to erase it. When its wheels began to score the surface in May 2021, the Tianwen-1 mission was bringing to fruition an idea cultivated for more than a decade. Not merely to look at Mars from above, but to touch it, listen to it, measure its skin, and above all understand what it hides beneath. Such an undertaking does not arise out of nothing. China had already attempted the Martian path with Yingzhou-1, designed to travel together with the Russian Phobos Grunt mission. The launch in November 2011, however, ended in an orbital dead end. The spacecraft failed to leave Earth orbit and, after weeks of silence and decay, its remains re-entered Earth's atmosphere in mid-January 2012. It was a searing failure, but also a turning point. From that moment a strategic choice matured, to develop an autonomous architecture, with rockets, navigation, and mission control capable of handling on their own the distance between Earth and Mars. A distance that is not only measured in kilometers, but also in time, made of minutes of radio delay and decisions that must work without immediate correction. Tianwen means, questions to heaven, a title taken from ancient verses attributed to Ku Yuan, and the name seems tailor-made for a mission that is, first and foremost, an interrogation of physics. On July 23, 2020, Tianwen-1 launched aboard a Long March 5 rocket. On February 10, 2021, it entered Martian orbit after about 7 months of cruise. Then came the riskiest phase, choosing where to land and actually descending. On May 14, 2021, the lander reached the surface in Utopia Planitia, an immense plain in the northern hemisphere, relatively smooth but geologically eloquent, because it lies within that great basin where many models place buried ice and, in very ancient times, the shadow of an ocean. The orbiter, with a mass of about 3 metric tons and a suite of instruments for mapping and probing, continued to work from above, while on the surface Zhurong, about 240 kilograms, 2.6 meters long, and powered by solar panels, began its march. It was designed for 90 Martian sols, a little more than 3 Earth months. It surpassed 340, traveling nearly 2 kilometers, enough to turn a demonstration mission into a genuine scientific campaign, made of close-up images, meteorological data, magnetic measurements, and above all radar capable of looking beneath the rover's feet. It is easy to imagine Mars as a frozen photograph, but Zhurong encountered a world that changes and preserves. It saw dark basaltic rocks, fragments of ancient lava flows or deep materials brought to the surface. It also saw lighter rocks, broken crusts, surfaces that appear coated, as if something had cemented the dust into a hard skin. In that contrast of colors between dark and light, lies the first clue that made researchers prick up their antennas: hydrated minerals. These are minerals that retain water within their crystalline structure. On Earth they often form when liquid water circulates, dissolves, transports, and then deposits material, leaving behind salts, sulfates, altered silicates. On Mars, finding spectral signatures compatible with hydrated materials in a context that may be relatively young, linked to the Amazonian period, means casting doubt on a comfortable narrative. What if water did not vanish completely as early as we think? What if, even on cold Mars, water continued to move in episodic reappearances, brief but real, enough to modify the surface and leave chemical fingerprints? This is the point where the story becomes more subtle, because it no longer speaks of ancient oceans as remote myths, but of processes that may have occurred when the face of Mars was already, at least in part, similar to today's. And from here, without breaking the thread, one enters the heart of the discoveries: how light-colored crust forms on a dark rock, What must happen for salts and hydrated minerals to appear on a plane where water, in theory, should no longer exist, and why that place also seems to preserve the memory of waves, beaches, and tides that we no longer see, but that the subsurface may have protected like a time capsule. If those light coatings are indeed a duricrust, a hardened crust, the picture that emerges is surprisingly concrete. At some stage, a subsurface brine may have risen through the pores of the ground, or buried ice may have partially melted, triggering slow chemistry. The water, enriched with salts, moves like a ghost among the grains. Then it reaches the surface, where the thin air and cold favor evaporation or sublimation, and what remains precipitates, cements, binds. It is a simple, almost inevitable mechanism, but it requires one fundamental condition. Water must exist, at least for a while, in liquid form. On Mars this can happen not because the planet suddenly becomes warm like Earth, but because salts lower the freezing point and because the tilt of Mars's axis, which oscillates over long timescales, can redistribute solar energy. In certain epochs, at certain latitudes, ice migrates, permafrost stability changes, and small geological windows open. Zhurong provided data that make this hypothesis more than a theoretical exercise, because it brings together mineralogy, morphology, and context. Ancient dark rocks, more recent light crusts, hydration signatures, surfaces that flake as if they had been cemented and then fractured by frost and time. There is also another level, even closer to the present-day Mars. In some areas around the landing site, aeolian structures and surface forms have been analyzed that, in certain cases, show associations with hydrated minerals and with geometries that suggest processes linked to freeze-thaw cycles or transient humidity. It is not the image of flowing rivers, but that of a planet where water, from time to time, attempts a return under extreme conditions and leaves subtle marks. This also changes the way Utopia Planitia is viewed as a resource. If beneath the surface there is ice, hydrated minerals, or saline deposits, then that subsurface could one day become a reserve from which to extract water to support human exploration. This is not science fiction. It is planetary logistics, and every data point on the water content of Martian soil weighs like a blueprint for the future. Then there is the ocean, the great, ancient one, that for decades has hovered between clues and controversy. Mars's northern plains are lower, as if they once hosted a basin. From orbit one sees lines that resemble coastlines, terraces, margins. But geology is a severe discipline. A line that looks like a coast can also arise from fractures, erosion, or non-marine deposition. Something different was needed. An in situ proof, or at least a proof that a satellite could not falsify from afar. Zhurong landed precisely in a region associated with the Vastitas Borealis Formation, a sedimentary unit that many interpret as the remnant of a sea from the Hesperian period. Close-up images showed rocks with stratifications and structures compatible with deposition in an aquatic environment. In other words, not just dust and basalt, but sedimentary textures, stacked layers, geometries that recall what on Earth forms when particles settle in water and are reworked by currents. And here enters the rover's quietest and most powerful instrument, the ground-penetrating radar. On the surface, Mars is a desert that erodes and erases. Below, it can preserve. In 2025, analysis of radar data attributed to Zhurong indicated buried structures between about 10 and 35 meters deep, inclined and continuous layers that, by geometry and context, resemble coastal deposits, like those of beaches and sandy seabeds. The key is the shape. Long, repeated inclined surfaces, extended along the rover's path, difficult to explain with simple dunes, fluvial channels, or lava flows. If they are indeed beach deposits, then they tell of a shoreline battered by waves for a time sufficient to build and shape sediments, a detail that makes the ocean more real and less episodic. Not a rapid flooding, but a persistent coastal environment, potentially stable, where water and rock could interact for long periods. And it is precisely in such environments that, on early Earth, prebiotic chemistry often finds its niches, transitions between dry and wet, variable salinity, the mechanical energy of waves, minerals that catalyze reactions. The fate of Zhurong, however, reminds us how fragile a machine on Mars can be. In May 2022 it entered planned hibernation to survive the winter and dust storms. A wake-up around the end of December 2022 was expected, but the signal never returned. Communications did not resume, and the most plausible explanation is simple and cruel. Too much dust on the solar panels, enough to reduce power below the threshold needed to heat components and reactivate the system. A solar-powered rover can become a prisoner of the sky precisely when the sky goes dark behind a haze of particles. And yet, even in silence, Zhurong continues to speak through the data already transmitted, because those measurements have been and will be reanalyzed, compared with orbital images, with climate models, with terrestrial analogs. Meanwhile, the Tianwen program has not stopped. Tianwen-2 was launched on May 28, 2025, toward the near-Earth asteroid Kamoa-Lewa, a curious object, almost a quasi-satellite, which some suspect may be a fragment torn from the Moon by an ancient impact. The goal is to return samples to Earth in 2027 and then continue on to 311P Pan-STARRS, a main belt body that exhibits comet-like behavior. It is an itinerary that mixes origins, collisions, dust, and water in another sense, because understanding asteroids also means understanding where the building blocks that form the planets come from. And then there is Tianwen-3, the most ambitious wager. A Mars sample return mission planned for 2028, with the goal of bringing back to Earth, around 2031, at least 500 grams of material. It may seem like a small amount, but in the laboratory it is equivalent to a continent of possibilities. Isotopes, organics, microstructures, traces of hydrothermal processes, signatures that no rover, however sophisticated, can read with the same depth as a mass spectrometer or an electron microscope. When all these pieces are put together, the story ceases to be the chronicle of a vehicle and becomes the biography of a planet. Mars is not only the red world we see, it is also the hidden world that radar penetrates, the chemical world that hydrated minerals preserve, the ancient world that a beach deposit can seal for 4 billion years. Zhurong walked less than 2 kilometers, a distance that on Earth takes half an hour. On Mars, those 2 kilometers became a bridge between epochs. Between a vanished ocean and a recent brine, between the coast of a Hesperian sea and the light crust that forms when water persists, returns, tries again. And if one day someone sets foot on those plains, they may see neither waves nor rivers. They will see dust and silence. But they will know that beneath, somewhere, the planet's history is still moist with memory. If you've made it this far, it means you love curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support what we do. Your presence truly makes a difference. Until the next exploration.